Exercise of Faculties by Chuang. Those who exercise their faculties in mere worldly studies, hoping thereby to revert to their original condition, and those who sink their aspirations in mundane thoughts, hoping thereby to reach enlightenment, these are the dullards of the earth. The ancients, in cultivating Tao, beget knowledge out of repose. When born, this knowledge was not applied to any purpose, and so it may be said that out of knowledge they beget repose. Knowledge and repose, thus mutually producing each other, harmony and order were developed. Virtue is harmony, Tao is order. Virtue all-embracing, hence charity; Tao all-influencing, hence duty to one's neighbor. From the establishment of these two springs loyalty. Then comes music, an expression of inward purity and truth, followed by ceremonial or sincerity expressed in ornamental guise. If music and ceremonial are ill-regulated, the empire is plunged into confusion, and to attempt to correct others while one's own virtue is clouded is to set one's own virtue a task for which it is inadequate, the result being that the natural constitution of the object will suffer. Primal man enjoyed perfect tranquility throughout life. In his day, the positive and negative principles were peacefully united. Spiritual beings gave no trouble. The four seasons followed in due order. Nothing suffered any injury. Death was unknown. Man had knowledge, but no occasion to use it. This may be called perfection of unity. At that period, nothing was ever made so, but everything was so. By and by, virtue declined. Xu Yan and Fu Xi ruled the empire. There was still natural adaptation, but the unity was gone. A further decline in virtue. Shendang and Huang Ti ruled the empire. There was peace, but the natural adaptation was gone. Again, virtue declined. Yao and Shan ruled the empire. Systems of government and moral reform were introduced. Man's original integrity was scattered. Goodness led him astray from Tao. His actions imperiled his virtue. Then he discarded natural instinct and took up with the intellectual. Mind was pitted against mind, but it was impossible thus to settle the empire. So art and learning were added. But art obliterated the original constitution, and learning overwhelmed mind, upon which confusion set in, and man was unable to revert to his natural instincts, to the condition in which he at first existed. Thus it may be said that the world destroys Tao, and the Tao destroys the world. And the world and Tao thus mutually destroying each other, how can the man of Tao elevate the world, and how can the world elevate Tao? Tao cannot elevate the world, neither can the world elevate Tao. Though the sages were not to dwell on mountain and in forest, their virtue would still be hidden but not by themselves. Those of old who were called retired scholars were not men who hid their bodies, or kept back their words, or concealed their wisdom. It was that the age was not suitable for their mission. If the age was suitable and the mission a success over the empire, they simply effaced themselves in the unity which prevailed. If the age was unsuitable and the mission a failure, they fell back upon their own resources and waited. Such is the way to preserve oneself. Those of old who preserved themselves did not ornament their knowledge with rhetoric. They did not exhaust the empire with their knowledge. They did not exhaust virtue. They kept quietly to their own spheres and reverted to their natural instincts. What then was left for them to do? Tao does not deal with detail. Virtue does not take cognizance of trifles. Trifles injure virtue. Detail injures Tao. Therefore it has been said, self-reformation is enough. He whose happiness is complete has attained his desire. Of old, attainment of desire did not mean office. It meant that nothing could be added to the sum of happiness. But now it does mean office. The office is external and is not a part of oneself. That which is adventitious coming, you cannot prevent it. Going, you cannot arrest it. Therefore, not to look on office as the attainment of desire, and not because of poverty to become it today, but to be equally happy under all conditions, this is to be without sorrow. But nowadays, both having and not having are causes of unhappiness, from which we may infer that even happiness is not exempt from sorrow. Therefore, it has been said, those who overestimate the external and lose their natural instincts in worldliness, these are the people of topsy-turvydom.